Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the NFL edition of Today in Sports Betting. Happy Sunday, everybody, or happy Saturday, or happy Friday. Whenever you might be watching this, have a happy weekend. And Scott and I are going to take a look at the NFL. If you notice things a little bit different on your screen, I've had major computer problems today. They ain't anywhere near fixed. So, yeah, we're adapting and improvising and overcoming right here, as the Marines might say. And I'm coming to you tonight via my cell phone. So pretty excited about that. Scott, I have none of my notes in front of me, none of my voluminous work that I've done on the NFL this week. That is all, I believe, Darling Clementine, lost and gone forever. So we're going to have to I'm going to have to just muddle through here. And you know what? We'll do what we can. All right.
I thought you were always muddling through, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story of my life. All right. So anyway, let's get rolling. Anything stand out to you? I did pretty well last week, Scott. I think I was 10-4 going into Sunday night. I don't remember, or going into Monday night. So it wasn't a bad week for me.
I know overall my week, I was really good in the 1 o'clock games, and then after that, everything kind of hit the wall. But yeah, it happens.
It's kind of the way I live my life, Scott. I'm pretty feisty about 1 o'clock. About 3-4 o'clock, I'm ready for a nap.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Especially when you have so much action going on at 1 o'clock, and that's one thing I've always had an issue with the NFL. They got to space their games better. I know they do have a lot of East Coast teams compared to West Coast teams. If you have 10 games at 1 o'clock and you have 3 4 o'clock games, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't get it. And one of them always has the Cowboys, which I guess you like, but the rest of the nation is like, yeah, we're done with that.
But the point is, like, even red zone and stuff, it's like, all right, cool, we're going to go to this thing. It's like, yeah, we have 3 games opposed to the 15 games that we had. Like, it's just like, no, break it down better. What are you doing?
Right. In red zone, they're struggling to show you 10 seconds of a game, and then the 4 o'clock games are showing you like an entire half.
Yeah,
pretty much.
You're
watching the whole game. So anyway, all right, so let's get rolling on the 1 o'clock games. What do you say?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
What do you got first up, buddy?
All right, so the first game is I have Browns-Cowboys. Total's been bet up from 54 to 56, even 56.5 at some spots, mostly 56. And the spread has dropped from Cowboys -5.5 to -4.5. You have any thoughts on this game?
No, I'm good. No, yeah, my thoughts on this game is that total seems high. I'm not so sure that I'm as down as on the Cowboys defense as everybody else. I certainly am as high as on their offense, but I think that I'm not adverse to this Browns defense. I think that total is high, Scott. I really do.
I think it's understandably high. That's how I'll phrase it. Where anytime you see 56 right now, it's currently the highest total on the board. You need 2 pretty poor defenses. Dallas' defense, I do think, is not that great. The secondary especially is awful. But Cleveland is a little bit banged up offensively. I know that Kareem Hunt is dealing with an injury. He's probably going to play, but it'll be at less than 100%. Plus Odell Beckham Jr., star receiver, who has been, let's just be honest, pretty underwhelming since he ended up joining Cleveland. He's also injured, and he should play, but he won't be at 100%. So there are a couple of injuries, some weapons. The Cowboys, they are not good against the pass. Against the run, there are worse teams against the run, I'll tell you that much. I still think Nick Chubb's a tremendous player, is going to have a good game, but I don't think Cleveland is exactly Air Coryell offense, if you know what I mean. They're kind of just built on grinding the clock out and moving the chains, and I think that will definitely hurt the total. For the sake of the game, I liked Cleveland at 5.5. 4.5, I'm still going to lean Cleveland. I know that Dallas usually plays a lot better in Jerry World, but I think this Cleveland team is still being disrespected. So I'm going to lean to Cleveland plus the points. I'll lean to the over, but I'll lean to Cleveland plus the points.
And you don't think that has anything to do with the fact that they're a bad football team?
Who? Wait, who? The Browns or the Cowboys?
Yeah, the Browns. You said
they're being Browns. See, that's the thing.
You said they're being disrespected. Like, well, yes, it's because they're terrible.
It was kind of just a matter of the fact that they're in the same division as the Ravens and the Steelers. They're automatically playing third fiddle. But I actually think that team, if they were in an easier division, I know that they haven't really played many division games up to this point, but I just personally think that the Browns are a better team than people think solely because they're the name Browns.
Well, I watched them play Cincinnati, and they looked a lot like the Browns.
They won. I mean, realistically, they won by double digits. They let Burrow go down the field in the last 2 minutes, but the game was already over. And they beat the Redskins pretty handily last week. I think that this team, people think they're not great because of that week 1 dud against the Ravens, which makes a lot of sense because they were terrible. But you're looking at the Cowboys. I don't think you're high on the Cowboys either. So I think you'll agree that both these teams are kind of even.
I would not agree with that. I think the Cowboys are a much better team, and they showed it last week when they stayed with Seattle on the road.
Okay. I think that's mostly a testament to how awful Seattle's defense is. I just think that the Cowboys' offensive line isn't as good as it used to be. The Cowboys' offense is great. I don't really like the defense at all, especially the secondary. I think this game will be close. I think Dallas will win, but I think they'll win by about a field goal or so.
I'll take your Cowboys.
Okay.
I'll take your Cowboys to cover the 4.5. I hate I'll fade the public. I'm absolutely fine with that.
Okay. Fair enough. So
all right.
The second game that I see is between the Saints and the Lions. You have a decent amount of movement on both the total and the side. Totals dropped from 56 to 54, and the Saints have gone from 5.5-point road favorites to roughly 3 even. So, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I wish I'd have got on this at 5.5. And as we were talking before the show, Lattimore's not going to play in this one. For the life of me, I can't figure out why Lattimore being out has caused the total to drop 2 points. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I agree. I think the total's mostly going to have to do with the Saints and Drew Brees' inability to throw the ball down the field. I think it's going to be mostly why, because it's going to eat up a decent amount of clock with his inability to throw. The issue I have there is that Detroit might have looked decently defensively last week. I still don't think they're a good defensive team. And I know that the Saints offense didn't exactly look great over the last couple of weeks. They still were in a pretty high-scoring game with the Packers because the Saints defense isn't very good, and they're missing the number 1 corner. And Stafford, you might not like Stafford. He has the ability to put up points. That
sure.
Disagree with. So,
and with Golladay back, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that if you want to actually look at a total of 54, I have to lean to the over because I don't really trust either defense. Do I really want to get +3 with Detroit? Maybe, but that involves me trusting Patricia in the fourth quarter, and I don't really want to do that. So for me, I'll lean to the over 54. I think you should see points. Both teams, I think, should be able to score at least, I'll say 27. I think this game probably finishes around 30-27, give or take. So I'm going to lean to the over.
Yeah, it's a tough game for me.
It's a very tough game, but I think you'll agree with me that Detroit's defense, having one good game, I'm going to need to see it again. I
agree, but they did do it. They did do it against a hell of a good offense.
I'm aware. I'm just saying that it was one game, and the Saints defense right now has been a disaster zone for the last 2 weeks, and now they're missing arguably their second best defensive player behind Cameron Jordan.
All right, you talked me into it. I'll take the Detroit Lions.
Okay, I was going with the over, but sure.
I know. No, you.
Plus, it's also in a dome, so you don't have to worry about the weather.
That's right.
Okay. So we agree on that. For the third game, I see the Vikings and the Texans. Texans are currently at -3.5. It's been that way all week. No real line movement. And the total has dropped a little bit from 54.5 to 53.5. My question for you is, I know that Houston's favored by 3.5 at home naturally because they looked pretty competitive against Pittsburgh for at least a half. And Minnesota was competitive against Tennessee, but this defense is terrible. My question for you is, why is their money coming on the under?
I think there's some kind of misperception with the Houston defense, and I don't think there's any misperception. I think they've written off Kirk Cousins. I think is another possibility there. I think
that's the thing, is that I don't think Cousins was that bad last week. I know that he had the awful interception pick 6 to start the third quarter, but he moved the ball pretty well. Justin Jefferson looks to be like a serious weapon out there to complement.
Well, yeah, because I dropped him from my fantasy team, so he's going to perform.
Yeah.
But it's also the fact that the Minnesota Vikings, in an ideal world, they're going to want to run the football, and teams have been able to have successfully run the ball against the Texans. So I think there's certainly the Vikings are going to take long marches down the field that are going to chew up the clock.
I think that's possible, but I think the issue you also have to wonder is that Houston kind of just let James Conner run wild on him. And Dalvin Cook, if he's known for one thing and one thing only, he's not afraid to break out these 70-yard touchdown runs.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I don't think you can count on 70.
No, I know what you're saying. You're saying that you can't assume that there's going to be massive outlier plays. It's a matter of the Vikings.
Right. I think they're going to hand. I think they're going to hand him the ball until they stop them. And
I think that's fair. I just think the main issue is that both defenses are allowing at least 31.7 points per game, and the total's at 53.5. I'm going to go with the over because I think both teams should get to 27. I think that even though this game's in Houston, it's in a dome, weather's going to be a non-factor. Cousins, I thought, was okay last week. Jefferson, I expect to have a decent game. It's mostly just Minnesota's secondary. Both secondaries, actually. They are awful, both secondaries. And Jefferson and Thielen are solid options. For Houston, I know that they don't have many great weapons, but I expect Will Fuller to have a pretty good game. I know he's a little bit banged up as he's Will Fuller, so of course he's
always is, right.
But you still have him. Brandon Cooks is still a decent deep play threat. Houston's offense has struggled a little bit, but if you also look at who they've gone up against, this Kansas City defense might be slept on. So you've gone up against Kansas City, Baltimore, and the Steelers.
Pittsburgh.
That's pretty tough. I expect Houston to perform a lot better offensively. I think both teams should get to around 27, 28. So for me, I'm going to lean to the over.
I'll take Houston. I'll take Houston to be able to break through against a non-first-tier opponent.
That's fair. It's an issue because I don't know what to think of Zimmer. He's been good in past years, but I don't know what's really going on with that defense. Mostly injuries. Anthony Barr being out's been huge for that defense for all the negative reasons. And I don't trust Bill O'Brien. So it's kind of just a massive pros cons list on both sides. So for me, I'm just going to go with the total. I'm just going to assume that both defenses will continue to struggle.
Good enough. What do we got next?
So the next game, I see the Colts versus the Bears. This is going to be taking place in Chicago. Indianapolis is favored. It's gone from -1 to roughly -2.5, even 3 in some spots. And the total has dropped from 45 to 43. I'm a little bit surprised by the under money. I know that it's in Chicago, so weather could play a factor. I have to assume Chicago's offense is going to look significantly better with Nick Foles under center in comparison to Trubisky because we both know how much I dislike Trubisky, and you've been well on board with me for a while. You also Phillip Rivers, interception machine. It's outdoors. I expect both teams to try to run the ball. I think that this game is probably going to go under, so I do think that the line movement towards the under makes sense. But are you also questioning this line movement towards Indianapolis? Is Indianapolis that good? They did lose to Jacksonville week 1.
Yeah, I know. I know they've. Yeah, they've been kind of the mystery machine, the mystery team. They've had a couple of good performances, and they've had that real stinker.
The issue that I have with the Colts, the issue I have with the Colts is that both good games they had were at home.
Right.
So it might just be a terrible road team. And I haven't seen them play a road game since they lost to Jacksonville. And Phillip Rivers, I don't know if you ever trust when he's throwing the ball or not, but I know that Paris Campbell's going to be out. We also have Michael Pittman Jr. having surgery. They are really banged up in their wide receiver core. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them just rely on Jonathan Taylor to carry the rock a lot. So I'm leaning to the under, which I know is low, but I also am hoping that the wind plays a bit of a factor.
Yeah, and this has been a really good Indianapolis defense so far. I think this defense has not gotten enough credit on the season. What did you say? It had gone from 47 to 45?
No, I said it went from 45 to roughly 43, which I know sounds low, but it's low, but it's outdoors, and you have Rivers, and I don't know how good Foles is going to look, which is another massive question mark going into this game. Maybe that's why money's coming in. They don't trust Foles in this spot. I'm going to lean to Chicago because Chicago actually looks pretty good. They look good with Foles. I know the defense has been a little bit inconsistent, but I am just not a Phillip Rivers guy at all, and I don't think anything will convince me otherwise that Phillip Rivers is kind of washed at this point in his career.
I'm gonna suck it up and play the under.
Yeah, I'm leaning to the under, and I'm leaning to the Chicago plus the 3, especially at home. I think that's a pretty good spot for Chicago.
All right, next.
I see the Chargers versus the Buccaneers. You have seen a decent amount of money coming in on Tampa Bay. They opened up at -5. It's currently up to roughly 6.5 or 7. Mostly market-wide 7, but there are some 6.5 still available. And the total has dropped from 45.5 to 43, even 42.5, but I still see some 43s. So for me, I'm going to lean to the Buccaneers -6.5. I said going in, we both agreed before the draft we were not fans of Herbert at all. We thought Herbert would struggle. I viewed him as a Trubisky 2.0. Makes a lot of stupid decisions, has some mobility but doesn't use it that often. And when he does, you kind of hope he throws the ball away a little bit more instead of taking some terrible sacks. And for me, I simply just think that Tampa Bay, despite missing Godwin, that defense is really, really good. And I had question marks going into the year about Tampa Bay's defense because I wasn't sure about the secondary. That pass rush is something else. They're good against the run. And that linebacking core with Levante David, who I still think is one of the most underrated linebackers of my generation, is very good. So for me, I'm going to fade Herbert at all costs because he got shut down by a Carolina defense that isn't very good. So I think Tampa Bay should win this game going away.
Yeah, I'm a big fan also of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right there. Search around for 6.5. I do like that. This is a play that I've already made at 6.5. So,
do you have any thoughts on Herbert? Do you think that first start against Kansas City was just an anomaly, or do you think that he will be good? There's just going to be some growing pains involved as a rookie quarterback.
I'm not sure.
I wasn't a fan of him going into the NFL.
There's always going to be some problems initially. It's how they make the adjustments, how they begin to read the defenses, how they react to what the defense is doing, and it's the mental part at this point. So I'm still on the fence about Herbert. I know he's got the physical tools, but he certainly wasn't known for being a cerebral quarterback.
He's not a good decision maker.
He wasn't known for being a cerebral quarterback at Oregon. I'm gonna tend to fade him. I would tend to sell on Herbert, but I think the jury's still out after just 2 weeks.
I agree. For me,
but I think this is this is going to be the toughest defense he's faced by far.
Do you see the Trubisky comparison, by the way? Because I see it every time I watch him play. He's mobile. He has a good arm, and then he makes a couple throws a game where you just go either A, you should have made that throw, or B, what were you looking at and what were you
right? Yeah.
I see it. It just every time I watch him play. So I'm not a Herbert guy, but I just think the spot. I know that Denver is not a good team, so people might overreact from Tampa Bay's performance last week because Denver proved on Thursday night this team isn't very good either. But I do like what I saw from Tampa, and that defense is something else. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, they're the real deal.
Yeah,
they're the real deal. I'll take Tampa to cover here.
All right. So the next game I see is going to be between the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington football team. The Ravens are currently minus 14. Open up at 13. Still see 113 available at BetOnline. But for the most part, it's 14 market wide. Total has taken a bit of a dip from 47 to 45.5. I had a play on this game earlier in the week for my Play of the Day video, so check out that if you have not done so before. You might have missed out on some value, though. That was on the first half, though. For the full game, I'm still in Baltimore. This is such we're pissed off about what happened last week. We got to take it out on somebody. And unfortunately, I think that team's Washington, because Washington stinks. I know that they beat the Eagles in week 1. I thought they would beat the Eagles in week 1, but that's just because the Eagles aren't very good, and they were really banged up on the offensive line and the receiving core. But Washington, you can roast Herbert for what happened last week. There's no chance Haskins is starting quarterback in the NFL. I've seen enough. It's a matter of even last year. You can talk about, he's progressing. No, he's not. If you watch him against Cleveland, he was awful. I have no faith in him against Baltimore's defense, which is still very good. It just looked really bad against what looks like the best quarterback of my generation. So I don't think that's really, it happens, whatever. Baltimore is currently in second place. They're behind the Steelers, and the Steelers aren't playing, so they have a chance to potentially gain some ground. I think this is a perfect spot to circle the wagons, beat the crap out of a really bad team, get back on.
Who did you say was the best quarterback of your generation?
I said he's on pace to Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, I think. Okay, I thought you were talking about Lamar Jackson.
No, I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes. I'm saying that the defense, even though they got torched by Patrick Mahomes, is still a really good defense. And yes. Dwayne Haskins, I think, is going to get smacked. And Washington, especially missing Chase Young on the defensive line, is going to hurt a lot in this spot. Yeah. So for me, I'm going to go with Baltimore. You've seen what they've done to bad teams. They smacked Houston. They smacked Cleveland. I think they're going to win by 17 going away.
Yeah, I hate to lay big numbers in the NFL, but I'm going to make an exception here.
I meant Lamar with best. No, I meant Patrick Mahomes.
All right.
So yeah, it wasn't that outlandish. He's the best quarterback I've seen talent-wise since prime Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think that's even a debate.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so
we're both on Baltimore. I don't have any thoughts on total though, because I think it's difficult because Baltimore can go for 30.
Don't care.
They can eventually take their foot off the gas late in the fourth and get some garbage time touchdowns for Washington.
Yeah, no, I have no interest in the total. Just there's too many variables. They could like you said, they could shut them down 30 to zip and score 17 points in the fourth quarter. So
I still see 13 on Baltimore though on BetOnline, which is definitely a better price better line than what you're getting on the rest of the market. So for me, I would take that 13 now because should be 14.
Yeah, I hate to lay the big number. There's another big number.
I think you'll agree with me that it's just too good of a spot for Baltimore, especially since the game was in Baltimore against Kansas City. So they're staying in the D.C. area.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to travel at all. I
Right.
think it's a great spot. I think you'll agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
All
So
right.
the next game is going to be between the Arizona Cardinals and the Carolina Panthers. Money coming out in Carolina. Arizona went from -4 to -3. Totals stayed flat at 51. I've seen 51.5 in maybe one or two spots, but pretty much money on Carolina and no money at all in the totals because it's been at 51 the entire week. I'm going to lean to the Arizona. I know they didn't play well against Detroit. Did people just forget that Carolina is not that good of a football team?
Yeah, well, they saw him play against the Chargers, and they thought, oh, well, maybe this team's not so bad. But
They shut down Herbert. Herbert looked good against Kansas City, so this defense has to be good. No, I don't think Carolina's that good.
That's the thing.
Arizona with 3? Sure, I'll take Arizona with 3. I can't name one guy in Carolina's secondary who's not a rookie.
They're not. I worry a little bit about what that Detroit defense was able to do to Arizona last week, but I would probably lean to Arizona and also to the over because I know that Carolina is going to throw that ball a lot. I think they're going to find themselves behind. I think they're going to throw the ball even more. So I think Bridgewater's been pretty good this season so far, and without a lot of weapons. So I like the over in this spot.
For me, I'm just going to lean to Arizona. I think that it's kind of similar to what we saw with Jacksonville after week 1. Jacksonville upsets the Colts team. People were thinking, maybe this Jacksonville team is, not that bad. Maybe they can do something. And then they end up hanging around with Tennessee, and people go, Jacksonville, not bad. They play Miami at home. They get smacked.
Yes, I'm well aware of that.
The team just isn't good. It's just Carolina. I know that Matt Rule is building something there. Everyone knew going into the year this team would be one of the worst teams in the league. I'm not going to immediately overreact to a performance against a rookie quarterback and just say, oh, you're missing your star running back who's your best player by far. Yeah, sure, I'll take you +3 against a team that looks like a potential playoff team. I'll take Arizona.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
Yeah, that's my thought on that. Anyway, Other than that, though, talking about Jacksonville, we got the Jaguars going up against the Bengals is it too early to call it a tank bowl? Because that's what it's looking like so far. You got Jacksonville is currently a 2.5-point underdog. Total has been bet up from 48 to 49, even 49.5. For me, I have a real hard time going with the over in this spot. I do love the concept because I don't think Cincinnati's defense is that good. It's not that bad. It's actually been looking mediocre. But Jacksonville's defense is atrocious. But Cincinnati is the worst offensive line in the entire league by a wide margin. So I'm a little bit concerned with the total. I'm also a little bit concerned with Cincinnati being favored by 2.5, especially with Jacksonville having the extra couple days of rest following the Dolphins Thursday night game, which should allow DJ Chark to play in the spot, and he was definitely missing the Thursday night game. I guess I'm leaning Jacksonville, but I have no interest in betting on this game.
No, I agree. I'm also leaning the Jags just because of the principle of not laying points with the Bengals.
Oh, the Bengals could tie again, and I'll take the 2.5.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You have any thoughts on the total? Because I'm really tempted by the over because I do like Burrow as a quarterback. I do.
What's the number?
It's at 49.5.
Yeah, I play the over there too.
I don't lean over, but with that offensive line for the Bengals, you're going to see a lot of potentially long drives settling for field goals because they take a sack on 2nd and 10.
Yeah,
I just don't want to deal with that. All right, now this one is the most underrated game on the card, in my opinion, just based on a point perspective. You got the Seahawks against the Dolphins. You have the Seahawks who were at -7, currently down to -6 or even -5.5. So a lot of money coming in on Fitzmagic, and the total has stayed steadily at 54. First glance, give me the over. I think that you have to take the over if you're going to be looking at this game in particular. You have the Dolphins, whose defense is terrible. I know they look good against the Jaguars. Congratulations. You stopped the Gardner Minshew and the Jaguars. Plus, I'm assuming Byron Jones is not going to play because he hasn't practiced all week, and he is still one of the, if not the best corner on that secondary. Wilson is a man possessed. There's really not much to say. He'll probably throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns again. And Seattle's defense, especially with with Adams being injured now, is going to be even worse. I think that Miami can score 28 points in this game. I think this game's going to be an absolute track meet. I think this game could get into the 60s. So for me, I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, well, I think Seattle certainly puts up 30+, and that doesn't leave much heavy lifting for Miami to do. So I'm on board with you there as far as the over goes.
Yeah, and for the side, I really don't know. I leaned to Miami earlier in the week at 7. At 5.5, at some point, you just got to say, all right, Wilson's going to win the game. It's just a matter of if he can cover 7 or not, or cover 6 or 5.5, whatever. So I'm going to pass on the side, but this total for me, until Seattle shows me they can show any somewhat form of defense, especially pass defense, I'm going to blindly take the over on their games. I'm going to treat them like a Big 12 team because I kind of have to, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how I'm going to view it. So, yeah, we agree on that. Now you get to the 4 o'clock games. You have the Giants against the Rams. Speaking of big point spreads,
you
have the Rams. Yeah, you have the Rams going back home for the first time since the opener against the Cowboys. They're laying 13.5, and the total has been bet up from 47 to 48. It's technically the second highest spread on the board because the Ravens have moved to 14. I wrote an article about this game as well for Winners and Whiners. I'm still leaning to the Rams. This Giants team stinks. I don't know how you lose to the 49ers by roughly 30 and about their entire starting lineups out of the game. I wasn't a fan of the Joe Judge hire when the Giants made it. I think that there's still a lot of time to tell based on how well he will progress the team in the future. This team stinks. They're awful in every capacity, and their best defensive back, or their second best, Jabril Peppers, is probably not going to play. So that's
he's officially out.
Yeah, so that's even worse because he's actually really good.
Yes, he is.
This Giants team is terrible. And I know the Rams, after getting, in my opinion, hosed on that pass interference penalty against Buffalo,
absolutely
be pissed. Especially with an NFC West division, which is the hardest division in all football, where every game matters. Mm-hmm. This team is going to try to beat the hell out of Daniel Jones and the Giants. I'm taking the Rams.
I am too. I'm laying 2 big numbers this week. I'm not thrilled about it, but I am laying 2 big numbers, and they're 2 of my favorite plays.
I don't know how – it's one thing if you can argue, well, the Giants, they have some resemblance of – they don't have anything. Daniel Jones is guaranteed to turn the ball over at least 2 times per game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the Rams' defense was awful last week. It might also be because the Bills' offense is just really good, and people haven't fully adjusted to that. The Giants haven't scored more than 16 points in a single game this season, and the Rams have scored at least 30 in each of the last 2 weeks. So I think this game's going to finish at 31-13. I think this game's going to be ugly. I am questioning the money on the over. And I know that's in a dome. I know the Rams offense hasn't looked good. You're taking the over with the Giants?
No way.
I'm with you. I'm going to lean to the under because I just think Aaron Donald's going to eat everybody in the front. I think Ramsey and a couple of these guys in the secondary will have some interceptions, do whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of how much the Rams want to win by. But the Giants getting to 14 or higher, 17 is a moral victory because they haven't gotten past 16 this season. So I'm going to lean to the under, but main lean, I think this Rams team's really good. And I think that they should have beaten Buffalo last week. And I think if they were, we'd be having a very different conversation about how good the Rams are.
Agreed.
So I'm going to go with the Rams.
All right.
Next game, you have the team that the Rams got hosed against. You have the Bills traveling to Vegas to take on the Raiders. Buffalo's been bet up from roughly -1.5 to -3, or even 3.5 in some spots. Total has been bet up from 49.5 to 53. I might surprise you. I'm going with the Raiders. I think that this is a pretty good spot for Las Vegas. They have been a very good home team and an awful road team for pretty much their entire existence. That's how they just rolled. They're awful on the East Coast, very good when they're in the West Coast. We saw what they did against the Saints. I'm not saying that the Saints were a really good team. Still a very impressive win, in my opinion. Buffalo, I know that they won the game. They still blew a 28-3 lead. I have questions about this defense. I know that Josh Allen's really good. I know that the Raiders' run defense is terrible. I'm not going to overreact to the Raiders looking awful in Foxborough. A lot of teams look terrible in Foxborough, and I had money on the Patriots in that game. I think the Raiders will get back on track. I think that Buffalo, despite being undefeated, kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth based on how badly they imploded in the fourth quarter of that game. And you mentioned it before against Miami and how they almost blew that game as well, and they should have won that game handily the week prior. I have issues with the way the Buffalo plays in the fourth quarter, and I think the Raiders keep it close. I think the Raiders might win the game. I know that they're missing a couple receivers. Ruggs is going to be out. Edwards is going to be out. That's a massive problem. But I'm going to take the Raiders. I'll look at this questionable line. I'll take the points.
I'm with you. I am always looking for an opportunity again to fade the public. I think this is the move. That line's moving the wrong way. Well, I'll take the Raiders as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get another half point or so on this.
Yeah, I'll lean to the over as well at 53. I know it's moved up a lot, so most of the value is pretty much gone. But Buffalo is an over team so far, and Vegas, I know that they like to run the ball, whatever. The offense really not that bad. I think that both teams could once again get to around 27, give or take, make this game close. I'm going to take Vegas. If it goes to 3.5, which is available at some spots, I love the 3.5 because I think the game could end up at a field goal. But I'm going to take Vegas.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now, next, you got the game of the day, which is going to be between the Patriots and the Chiefs. Total has gone down from 54 to roughly 52.5, and the spread has stayed steadily at 7 for the entire week, with the Chiefs being the favorite. So for me, I'm going to lean to New England plus the points. I know Kansas City's fantastic. I know that they were great against Baltimore. I know a little bit of a short week playing on Monday. I don't know if that really matters that much, but I do think that giving Belichick any extra days of preparation does help. At the end of the day, you're giving me Belichick plus 7. This is a dream come true. I'll take Belichick plus 7.
All right, I'm fading you here.
I don't blame you because Reed's been actually very good against Belichick. I just think that the Patriots will try to control the clock with running the ball, which the Ravens kind of decided to stop doing midway through the game, which made no sense. So I was confused by that. But I don't know. You give me Belichick. I think this game could land 7. But I think New England's actually a good football team. I think they're a very good football team. So even though I think the Chiefs are going to win, I think they'll win by about 4. And this game will be close.
All right. This is a Chiefs team that covers. That's what they do. They win. They cover. Good teams win. Great teams cover. This is a great team. I was off of them last week. They hadn't really showed me much the first couple of weeks, and then they reminded me that they really are the world champions, and by far the best team in the league. I don't think New England is a top 5 team in the league. Give me the Chiefs to cover that number.
Okay, so let me ask: if you think the Patriots are not a top 5 team in the league, I'm actually curious. Who are your top 5 teams in the league? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but if you had to name them, Chiefs
Baltimore.
Chiefs
Baltimore, Pittsburgh, the Rams, Green Bay.
Yeah.
It's real. I don't know. The Steelers may be better than they are.
Well, you already said the Steelers.
I'm sorry. Okay. Steelers,
Bills,
Ravens.
You going Bills?
What's that?
You going Bills?
That was the one that I was. Yeah. That'll be the interesting game to see when they play. So there's certainly what does that put them 6th or so?
Give or take. I would probably swap New England.
I would put Seattle in there as well.
Okay. Yeah, Seattle should be in there, even though their defense is terrible. But
and they beat them. So
yeah. Very, very close. Yeah. I think New England's better than Buffalo, if I'm being honest, but that's just me personally.
That's certainly possible, but I've already got them at 7 without.
No, correct. I know. I'm saying that. I understand. You're talking about the best team in the league at home. But for me, I'll take the points with Belichick. I think that he'll work some type of ball control offense, and they'll just try to keep Mahomes off the field. So we'll see what happens there. Now,
I think Chiefs Kingdom exercises a bunch of demons.
Could be. I think they exercised them last year when they beat them late in the season.
No.
Okay.
No.
Either way. Okay. You got the Sunday night game between the Eagles and the 49ers. 49ers open up at 5.5, currently bet up to roughly -7. Total has stayed flat at 45.5 all week long. Eagles have some injuries to the wide receiver core. I know that Deshaun Jackson's most likely not going to play, or if he is going to.
No way.
Alshon Jeffrey was practicing. I don't know if he's actually going to play or not, but if he is, he's definitely going to be in a snap limit because he's rehabbing from off-season leg surgery, foot surgery, so I don't expect him to play much, even if he does play. Goddard's out indefinitely, so they're down a tight end. The secondary is also banged up. A lot of injuries for Philly. 49ers, of course, are going to be using their backup running backs and Nick Mullins again. Kittle will be back, though, as he was going to be playing. You have any thoughts on this game? Because I think that this number is pretty dead even.
I'm all over the Niners.
Okay.
I think this Eagles team is dreadful. They're banged up. And this stupid Niners team, for whatever reason, they just keep covering. They just keep winning. I know they've played bad teams, and they get another one right here. I think they take care of business easily.
For me, I'm gonna take the over.
Okay.
These teams, the 49ers, even though their offense on paper looks really underwhelming, That offensive line is something else.
Yes.
They have a great offensive line, which is why I thought they would cover against the Giants last week, and they completely just manhandled them. Fun fact, they didn't punt last week. So shout out to the Giants defense.
Nice.
Mostly, Mullins looked really good last week, and I know that the Giants defense is terrible. I don't think the Eagles defense is that much better. The defensive line's better, but their secondary is not very good. I think Mullins should lead them to a pretty solid performance, and Wentz, even though he is struggling and he's not the quarterback he used to be, I think they'll do enough against this banged-up 49ers secondary. I know Sherman's probably going to be back, which is definitely a boost, but the defensive line for San Francisco is not much to write home about. I think both teams should get a total of around 48. I think 45.5 is a bit too low. So for me, I'm going to lean to the over.
All right. Good enough.
And that's it.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. That's an NFL show. Any final thoughts, Scott?
No, I'm hoping that other teams don't get COVID, so you don't have to shut down more games.
Fair enough. All right, everybody. Well, thanks very much for watching, checking us out today, as always. And, of course, if you're looking for deeper dives into these games, another opinion, don't forget to check out winnersandwhiners.com, where some of the best cappers in the world reside, and they're writing deep dives into each and every game, each and every day. So check it out, winnersandwhiners.com. And, of course, we wish you guys nothing but a great weekend. Hope every one of your tickets cash at the window. For myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at winnersandwhiners.com. Appreciate you watching today. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. And, of course, don't forget to come back and see us next time on Today in Sports Betting. Take care, everybody.